Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Natural Grocers Nutrition Education virtual edition. Today, I am super excited to introduce a family favorite of ours, Dr. Harrison, who's going to be spending some time with us to learn a little bit and teach you about your immune system, especially during the cold and flu season. So thank you for being here, Dr. Harrison, and take it away.
Okay, thank you very much, Amy. So let's see where we are, make sure we get that right. My name is Dr. Glenn Harrison, and what we really want to do today is really jump into immune health. So there's so many ways to talk about immune health, evaluate immune health, and it is a beast. It really is a beast. In fact, it's one of the fields of medicine and physiology, pathophysiology, that we're just scratching the surface of. I always say it's the final frontier of human health because it's so dynamic, it's so complex. So we're gonna try to blaze through strategies on how you can enhance your immune system and your last line of defense in the cold and flu season. So let's get rolling. So the topics we're going to touch on is I was going to talk about myself, but I guess Amy already did that, so thank you. I'm going to touch on functional medicine, really what that is, because that's what I practice. I practice something called functional medicine. For those of you who haven't heard of it, I'll get into that. Talk a little bit about our health crisis and how we got into a weak immune model, and how flu and cold season is really damaging us and creating even disability, and why our immune systems are becoming weak. This is a big part of it. I'm going to get into strategies of that and what must be corrected to have a healthy immune system, and how to take action to protect your health, your health naturally and effective. I'm also going to give some free health education resources at the end of this that you can explore. So my background, my doctorate is in chiropractic. I don't practice chiropractic anymore. I refer all of that out. My postgraduate certifications in education in our multiple fields of functional medicine. The people that I see are immunocompromised, chronic illness, autoimmunity, you name it, we see it. But I don't do any musculoskeletal work anymore. So that's my background. And with regards to functional medicine, really what that is, I'll get into that. But I've learned over the years when I'm speaking to crowds, and it used to be all live, and hopefully by the time you hear this, maybe there'll be live presentations again. But I learned over the years that people want to know where the speaker's coming from, why they do what they're doing, and maybe even more so than what they have to say, or at least understand more so of why they're saying what they're saying. And my story, to simply put, I got really sick when I was working on my doctorate. It was in this picture that I found out via email from a primary medical doctor that I was a pre-diabetic. And due to a lifestyle of chronic sleep deprivation that went on for years, and emotional stress and physical stress and very unhealthy lifestyle habits, trying to push through academia, my health declined. And this was a surprise because I was an athlete going into school, and I didn't make any changes. And a year later, after I was a pre-diabetic, I turned into a full-blown type 2 diabetic. Now, type 2 diabetes is terrible. I caught it early enough, and a doctor I was doing an internship under, he was a chiropractor as well, but he practiced something called functional medicine. I didn't know anything about it, and frankly, I didn't care at the time. I just needed my hours for my credits for my internship. And he identified that there was problems in me, concentration difficulties and everything else. And I was a train wreck at this point. But it didn't matter because I was trying to get through academia, so I was going to deal with it later. And it just kept getting worse. And he ultimately told me if I was still going to work in his clinic, I had to make some changes. So with his approach of functional medicine, he was able to help me out of it. I'm not a diabetic or a pre-diabetic anymore. I was able to turn my health around. And if I didn't make those changes, I wouldn't be in front of you here today. So that's why I do what I do, because there's a lot of people like that are only given a handful of drugs and no other options. And I'm not anti-pharmaceutical, I'm pro-pharmaceutical, but with the exception of something else, looking at something else other than just the pharmaceutical model. I'm referring all the time to primary medical doctors when it's needed. So that's my background. But this functional medicine thing, to summarize, it's a blend of natural medicine and really advanced diagnostic testing. We use the laboratory testing to find the problems, and then we'll use specific lifestyle interventions to make the changes. accordingly. And really, we live in this world where we have all these common diseases and disorders. They're all real. However, they don't say anything about the cause of the problem. Functional medicine's goal is to identify the causes of the problem, the root causes that natural doctors always like to talk about. And these diseases don't exist by themselves. They don't even start by themselves. And the name doesn't say anything about the disease. It's just a name. But all these underlying disorders is what contribute to the disease, cause the disease, and make the disease even worse. Functional medicine is working with these disorders and imbalances beneath the scenes. So that's, to summarize, that's functional medicine. And it really fills the gap because we live in a conventional medical model where it's, one disease, one pill. Most people come in with, so many different disorders, and then they end up on so many different pills. And it's not everything. It's not the whole story. As we go through this presentation, I want you to think about what your why is. This is very important. Many people listening to this, they want to combat colds and flus and prevent them, and that's all perfect and fine. But a lot of other people have many other things going on associated with these concerns. And natural medicine takes work. Everything we talk about in here is going to take work, and that's fine. That's okay, because the payoff is a life. The payoff is improved life. And we all have our why and why we would want to improve our health. And that is where the keys of motivation come in. Why would we want to change our health? How would that change our lives and the people around us? So think of that as we're going through this. It is the motivator. So briefly, how did we get into this crisis? Well, I believe it really started with a lack of information. And the same reason why you're watching this presentation, because you want to learn more. And doctors have come a long way from being a doctor. And by definition, doctor is a teacher. Doctors don't teach anymore. They prescribe drugs. So we want to start getting past that so you can take care of yourself. There's a lot that have contributed to it, but there's some really powerful statistics I want to bring up before we get into this whole immune story. Right now we represent barely 5% of the world's population in this country, but we consume over 52% of the world's drugs. This is absolute madness. We're getting sicker by the minute, and the drugs are not necessarily providing a solution. If drugs were the solution, the United States would be the healthiest country in the world, and we're not. We're actually the opposite. Here's another statistic: medical mistakes. There's mistakes everywhere across anything. There's medical errors, or I should say errors. Even natural medicine has some errors, but not to this. Medical mistakes account for the third leading cause of death in this country. It works out. The last statistic, I believe it was 250,000 Americans dying every year from medical errors, but it's not talked about. So please don't avoid your medical doctor. Just realize that there's risks with that. Our health habits aren't the best either, as we know in this country. Being proactive is not really a thing. So we've got to think about this, especially with immune health. Just like this guy, he's walking his dog. He knows his dog needs exercise, but for some reason, there's a disconnect in what he needs for himself. So, we got to think about these things. And a final piece before we jump in immunity is this medical insurance model. Now, it's necessary. It's designed for emergency care, and there's a disconnect. Some people believe that they have their medical insurance, it has their back, they can live any way they want, and they don't need to worry about anything. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. Medical insurance is designed for emergency care. Mostly, this is what it provides. It provides drugs. Some are life-saving, provides surgeries, again, life-saving. These are emergency strategies. Diagnostic testing, which you're going to learn. I don't have too much time to get into diagnostic testing, but the diagnostic testing in the medical insurance model is designed to look for the elephant in the room, the cancers, the tumors, etc. But it's not designed to look for the why of how did the elephant get in the room, because it's not detailed enough. And we see a lot of people come into our office and they have, I call it, limited blood work and no answers. So we have to dig deeper into it, but they do bare minimum because insurance calls the shots. Office visits, right now, the statistical average of time you get with your medical doctor in North America, or I should say United States, is between 7 and 8 minutes. That's the average. I'm originally from Canada. Our doctors are giving on average 6 minutes with their patients. And when we're dealing with chronic illness that's killing us in this country, you can't teach in 6 to 7 minutes. And you definitely can't, blaze through 30 years of medical history of someone suffering for 30 years. So We need to look past the medical insurance. We have to recognize what it's for and have it and have access to it. But we got to go farther. The same reason why you're watching this presentation. And medical insurance, especially Medicare, was under a lot of fire, a lot of criticism over the last, I don't know, couple decades. And they made a statement. I can't remember when this came out. This was a while back. They said care that seeks to prevent disease, promote health, and prolong and enhance the quality of life is not considered medically necessary. And that's really heart-wrenching for people that are looking for answers. But we got to recognize what medical insurance is for. It's emergency care. It's to prevent death, not to necessarily promote long-term life. Okay, so have it, but just be careful with it. And it's costing people billions. The most common cause of bankruptcy in the United States is medical bills. So take care of yourself, and that's the most important thing. And this presentation will help with that. So finally, immune health. How do we unlock this most important aspect of our physiology? Well, our immune systems are becoming weak, and there's many contributors. One thing we're going to talk about is poor immune conditioning. Okay. Another major thing is preoccupied immune systems. I'm going to explain what that is. Poor digestive health. This is imperative. If you have a weak digestive system, you will have a weak immune system. And poor sleep habits. Also toxicity. These are all major players. So first, poor immune conditioning. Well, how do we condition our immune system? We're supposed to be conditioning it every day. We have a strategy of vaccines, and they are helpful. But that is all we have. That's the only modern strategy we have. They're not enough. This is right from the CDC, seasonal flu vaccines. This is their numbers. This isn't mine. I would actually bring these numbers down because I do believe they're inflated, but that's my personal opinion. But you can see how effective they are. 2014, 2015, they were at 19% effective. Usually we're hovering in the mid-20s in the last few years. So we have to do more. Another thing that has prevented our immune conditioning or reduced our immune conditioning or strengthening is reduced exposure. Kids playing in the mud anymore. And this is a problem. This is a big problem. Your immune system actually gets enhanced just by having a dog in your home because the dog will go outside and bring dirt in and you'll get exposed to some microbes. So a lack of exposure is one thing. What's making it worse is hand sanitizer. I know we live in a world where hand sanitizer for everything, but it wasn't that long ago where the American Medical Association said hand sanitizer is destroying your immune system, and there's multiple papers on it. So, conditioning is a big thing. Preoccupied immune systems, this is a massive one. Some people aren't truly aware of how preoccupied it is. When our immune systems are preoccupied with other disorders, naturally, they can't defend us. And we are much more susceptible to all sorts of pathogens and bacteria. Allergies are a major cause of this. If your body's fighting pollens and allergies and everything under the sun, naturally, you're going to have a preoccupied immune system with an allergy that's not necessarily a threat to your body. And through the back door, you're going to end up with viruses and infections. So get on top of your allergies. This is a big story, and we don't have time to get just into allergies today. Autoimmunity. Oh my goodness, this is a monster. And I can't say enough about autoimmunity. I have presentations on my website just about autoimmunity because it's so big. Autoimmunity is where your immune system attacks yourself. It's the most common growing pathology that's happening to humans right now. Women, I believe, are at 75% higher risk or 80% higher risk than men. There's a few reasons for that, which I can't go into this presentation. But autoimmunity creates a lot of problems. And I work with autoimmunity all the time. Here's a lady, she's from Colorado. She's on the website. She had many things going on, multiple autoimmune disorders, a lot of fatigue, surprise, surprise, a lot of allergies, okay? And naturally, a lot of immunocompromise. She was always getting sick. And there's a reason why. She had a great immune system. It was just busy fighting herself. And we did a lot of work, took a lot of time, took a lot of discipline. And she really had to ask her why and why she wanted to, make these changes and why she wanted to improve. Well, with just a few months, that's her there. She's down 60 pounds right now. She doesn't have any autoimmune flare-ups. Her allergies are down. She's off all her medications. And there's a little bit of her story. Just in 1 month, she was able to see changes. And we worked on the autoimmune component. There's a lot you can do with autoimmunity. Minimal flare-ups. At this point, she was down 40 pounds. So she stabilized at, I think it was 55 or 60 pounds. But even her joint pain went away. And the word inflammation is a very generic term to mean immune response. And when our body is inflamed, our body is actually presenting and giving off an immune response. We're exhausting our immune system. And someone with autoimmunity is very inflamed because they're fighting their own tissues. It was her joints, and I believe it was her thyroid, and it was her digestive system. So these things can happen. So hopefully there's a good case to manage your autoimmunity. This is one of the most important things you can do. Inflammatory foods. Well, you are what you eat. This picture, if you eat that all the time, you will be that. I don't know what you look like, but it's not going to be pretty. I hate to say that. It's true, and it's our culture. We are what we eat. And if we had the opportunity to look at our internal organs after we eat a bunch of junk food, we would learn pretty quickly that we didn't want to do that to our body. We don't see it right away. There's a delayed effect. There's a delayed response. And think of inflammatory foods as these foods irritate your immune system. Your immune system will become preoccupied with this food because it's responding to the food, and it can't defend yourself. So hopefully you're able to see through this presentation that the immune system is very dynamic. It's much more than a pill, whether it's a vitamin or a supplement or anything. It's everything you do every day. And that's why the medical community has such a hard time to try to enhance your immune function, because it's too dynamic. And we're just hitting the tip of the iceberg on it. So preoccupied immune systems. Another one is poor digestive health. I said how important this is. Well, a few years back, we thought the immune system was responsible for about 50% of our immune strength. And then it was like, no, I think it's 70. And then research is showing it's like 70 to 80. And actually, since the time I put this together, there's more and more support showing it's 90 to 95% responsible, 90 to 95% of our digestive system's strength is due to our immune strength. So if you have symptoms at all, and there's some subtle ones, that's a game changer. That has to be corrected. So what does that look like? Well, how do you improve it? Well, you have to identify and avoid these food triggers. So if you have a symptom, you're lucky. A lot of people don't have symptoms from the foods that they consume that are causing a problem, and it's a silent killer. And that's where testing comes in, finding out what's bothering your body, what's irritating your immune system. Leaky gut. Most people listening to this have probably heard of leaky gut, also known as intestinal permeability. There's thousands of journals, tens of thousands of journals on intestinal permeability. You're not going to see leaky gut in journal entries because it's not a medical term, it's a slang term. But leaky gut is really where, and I'm going to give you the 30-second explanation of leaky gut. And you can go to my website, you can revisit this presentation, hopefully, and you will see it's really where when you consume foods, your foods don't stay in your intestinal tract, they leak through your gut-blood barrier. And these food proteins get in your bloodstream and irritate your immune system because those proteins are seen as a foreign entity in your bloodstream. They're an enemy, and your immune system attacks anything that they perceive as an enemy. Once your immune system is occupied with the foods due to leaky gut, well, there's another immunocompromise, another immune irritation. That's just one aspect of how your immune system becomes compromised due to poor digestion. But this creates all sorts of things. It increases your perception or your susceptibility to having more foods that are problems and more foods that are problems. And like the lady I just showed you that case, she definitely had leaky gut, and it aggravated her existing autoimmune condition. So we had to correct leaky gut. There's many ways of doing this, but there's many causes of it. There's no way I could give you a protocol in a presentation how to do it. The diet, all of these will create leaky gut. Medications, I'm not going to say don't use your medications, but ask questions with your medical doctor. There's a place for medications, but be careful with them and become informed from your medical doctor. Ask questions. Infections, these are major players in developing leaky gut. Stress and these hormones associated with stress every day of the week. Hormonal dysfunctions that are more specific to metabolic hormone. And any of these are low, it will be a contributor to leaky gut. Neurological disorders, like brain trauma, is an interesting thing. If someone has a concussion, most people that develop a concussion, they will get leaky gut within 5 to 10 minutes of the concussion, and it can take a long time to recover. So that's why you'll see digestive disorders immediately after concussions, and metabolic disorders like autoimmunity. So there's a lot here. There's something to look at, but leaky gut has to be corrected. Now, I know this presentation is quite thorough, but if we want to know the whole story on immunity, we have to know how big it is, because it's more than a pill, and it's more than just eating good food. That's a start, but these dysfunctions are really where the problems lie. So any digestive symptom is unacceptable if you want to enhance immunity. Acid reflux, you should never experience heartburn or anything. That's got to be corrected. There's many natural strategies and medical strategies that'll work. Bloating, you should never have any bloating or gas after a meal, ever. It's not acceptable. Daily gas, never. Again, I'm really ruling these out because we can't have them. These are all subtle symptoms of digestive disorders, but the symptom isn't always consistent with the severity of the digestive issue. And that's why digestion is so sneaky and stealthy. Belching, that's another indicator of a digestive disorder. Abdominal pain, you should never have abdominal pain. Okay, so there's a lot with digestion, but it's really important. Here's another case. This one is out of Canada, actually, Crystal. She came in with many disorders, many digestive disorders, a lot of immunocompromise also, but the doctors blamed it on a brain tumor. And yeah, well, I guess so. That's a good explanation. But they never looked at all these other intricacies. Everything was the result of the brain tumor, and I believed it wasn't. When I saw her blood and I saw the imbalances in it, and I said, we can't make changes in these things, and there's symptoms that aren't associated with this brain tumor. Let's work on all those pieces. I'm not going to change the brain tumor with natural medicine, and the medical doctor, they couldn't perform surgery on it because it was in a place that was inoperable. So there was again a lot of work done, a lot of things found. We made a lot of corrections. I think it was within 6 months. This is her. This is the same girl. That's the same girl. And you're seeing parallels between this case and the last case of weight loss. Well, weight loss is a consequence. I shouldn't say it's a consequence. It's an outcome of health. It is an outcome of health. Your body does not hold on to weight. That wasn't actually all weight in the first picture. That was inflammation. That was retaining water. She come a long way. She feels like she's 20 years younger. We corrected the digestive issues. That's all gone. She's off all her medication. Her doctor said she didn't need to be on them, and she has the brain tumor. More energy, everything stabilized, and now she doesn't have to see her medical doctor very much. Is the brain tumor still there? Yes, it is. But her health is a lot more than just her diagnoses, her medical diagnoses. And she doesn't get sick anymore, right? She doesn't get colds anymore because her immune system is better, largely due to getting rid of inflammation and correcting digestive health. Now, poor sleep habits. Oh my goodness, this is the world. This is the world. So, what can you do to improve sleep, and why is it important? Well, there's a lot of research showing up to 40% of your immune system can be compromised with poor sleep. I completely believe that, because probably anybody listening to this, if they're exhausted for whatever reason, off and on over the course of a week or a few days, that is when they get their colds. They're immunocompromised. So what can we do to enhance this? Well, there's lots that can be done, but we do sleep 20% less than we did 100 years ago. And we got to get that back. So it's not as simple as I'm just going to get more sleep. A lot of times we live in a digital world more now than ever. It's creating a stimulus. So screen time and blue light, all these things are neurostimulants. These neurostimulants prevent your body from getting into true REM sleep. You might lay down, but your eyes will be open. Your mind will be traveling. People say, well, Dr. Harrison, I just can't sleep because my mind's traveling. And then the first thing I ask, what were you doing for the first hour before going to bed? This is crucial. Get rid of the light, the blue light, the screen time, no TV, all of that. Just 1 hour. Read something on paper, listen to a podcast that's not too stimulating, and that's where we get more emotional stimulation. I have worked with people that they say, well, this lady that was a gardener, she loved gardening, that was her hobby. So what did she do before bed? I told her to read something that she enjoyed. She was reading all the gardening magazines on paper, following the rules. What happened? She couldn't fall asleep because she was thinking of all the great types of strategies of gardening that she could do before bed. Not everybody is this stimulated. but don't underestimate it. And I recommend try removing any form of work stimulation, task stimulation, to-do lists, any of that stuff 1 hour before bed. Get into bed, turn the lights off. This is sleep hygiene strategies. No screen time. Do it at least 1 hour. Give it a solid week. I guarantee you're going to start dreaming more. You're going to dream because you're getting into REM sleep. It's powerful. And if we're talking about the immune system, there's no drug on the planet that could replace this. Now, sleep is complicated. There could be many more things, but try this. This is easy. Chemical stimulation as well. Alcohol will help you fall asleep, but it'll keep you up. Melatonin, stay away from massive melatonin before bed. It disrupts your sleep-wake cycle, and you'll help you fall asleep, but you'll wake up later on in the day. Melatonin is the old strategy, so be careful with melatonin. Okay. Temperature, you got to keep your core temperature down. We always do better. Everybody's a little different in this. Sweat and dust. We always sleep better when we wash our sheets. It's not because they smell better. We like to think that. It's because we're getting rid of dust and even a little bit of sweat. That's an immune irritant. That immune irritant prevents us from getting into a deep sleep. So there's some strategies on sleep. It's the most important thing. It's one of the first things I introduce in our lifestyle programs in our clinic because so many people have problems with them and they're hard to adopt. Toxicity. Toxicity is big. It's everywhere. How do we reduce our toxic load? Well, the first thing to remember about toxicity, which not too many people are aware of, is detoxification is energy dependent. If you have any energy problem, I don't care how well you eat, you are going to be toxic. I've had 4-year-olds come into my office. They're brand new. These people they're brand new, these little kids. And they're extremely toxic. The examination and laboratory findings found that. And what was the cause? Well, they were metabolically compromised for whatever the reason. They were exhausted. If we don't have enough energy to give our liver and our metabolic and our detox physiology, we can't clean our body up. So you got to get energy up, number one. If you did everything that we're talked about before and correct all those, your energy will go up because those are all energy robbers. We must be capable of sweating. I see a lot of people that can't sweat for whatever the reason. If you can't sweat, you end up turning into a toxic sink because your sweat gets these toxins out of the body. So look at sweating strategies. A lot of people, their metabolism is compromised. So we have to figure out how to get their metabolism up so they turn on sweating. I had a lady, I was working with, she was 7 years old, never sweated. She said, I asked her if she she could sweat. One of my intake questions, and she said, oh, not for a long time. And I said, well, how long is that? I remember back in Oklahoma, when I was 16, I was walking to school and we dressed differently back then. It was probably everything was in wool. I don't know. She said, yeah, I remember my forehead getting a little damp. So, from this story, can you imagine now what was that lady toxic? Oh my goodness, was she ever? And I said, well, be prepared this is one of our goals. And she was so proud of herself, but she didn't like it. She said it was uncomfortable. Can you imagine that? 50 years, 60 years of not sweating. So you can turn it on. Reduce your toxic intake. So your foods are going to play a big role into the story. Of course, you are what you eat. Promote blood flow. Think of blood cleans your body out, if we want to simplify it that much. Anything to get some kind of activity in everybody's reference point of what they should be doing is different. If someone's sitting at a desk all day and doesn't move and walk across the parking lot is their activity, well, maybe dial it up. Let's do a 10-minute walk every evening. Tying your shoes is going to take just as long. So try that and then work up from there. Blood flow does promote detoxification, and toxicity is an immune irritant. It's also creating an immune distraction or immunocompromise. So that's toxicity. Now, there are many different immune-enhancing nutrients. I'm not going to have time to get into all of those. And I think supplementation is secondary, always on top of lifestyle. They can't replace lifestyle. They never could. I use them in my office because they're helpful, but they're not everything. One thing that I want to create a little clarity in is mushroom extracts. There's so many. They're so beautiful. They're one of the most ancient medicines from the beginning of time. However, here's the caution point. If you have a diagnosed autoimmune disorder, or if you suspect autoimmunity, do not take mushroom extracts. I don't have time to get into autoimmunity and something called a Th1 or a Th2 hyperimmune response, but mushroom extract can aggravate autoimmunity. even though it has health benefits for a lot of the population, if you have celiac disease, Crohn's disease, MS, any of that, don't risk it. It's not worth the risk. Find a doctor, reach out to us. We can identify if there is a concern of autoimmunity and go from there. So I would say autoimmunity, don't consume it. Highly absorbable vitamin C. All nutrients and supplements, they're not created equally. They're not properly regulated. So you have to go to respectable sources, and then you'll be safe. But vitamin C is kind of one of those things. Vitamin C plays in every aspect of the immune system. So that's why vitamin C is anybody trying to enhance autoimmunity, it should be something they're using. It's not a new concept. Zinc also is not a new concept. The two forms of zinc to get your zinc levels up are these two. These are two of the best. And be careful with zinc. Zinc will destroy your copper numbers. Too much copper, it'll compromise your zinc. So be careful with zinc. 70%, the last research I saw, 70% of the American population had deficiencies in zinc. So you could probably consume zinc and not throw off your copper. But the best zinc formulations are going to have some copper in it to keep it balanced. So something to think about. Again, this isn't a new concept, but hopefully give you some details on it. This is the big dog. If there's one thing you're going to do for your immune system, you are going to bathe in glutathione. No, not necessarily, but you are going to want to use glutathione. Not all glutathione is the same. But briefly, what is glutathione? Glutathione is I don't want to say it's an immune booster. It acts as an immune booster because it helps regulate your immune system. It reduces your immune distraction. You think of these inflammatory fires going on in the body, where your immune system is fighting foods and fighting chemicals and fighting viruses and infections and cuts and autoimmunity, and we all have a little bit of inflammation in our body. Everybody does. Glutathione is the biggest inflammatory fire extinguisher you can imagine. It's putting out these fires, and our bodies, and it's the most powerful antioxidant known to man, and it comes from the body. Once again, the body always does it the best. So the problem lies when we don't make enough glutathione. That's when chronic illness starts. So many pathophysiological models looking at this. So what do you do with glutathione? Well, you take it. Now, what do you take? Every dose is different, so I'm not here going to be talking about doses. But glutathione, there's two major forms you'll find. You're going to find L-glutathione. 90% of L-glutathione will burn up in your stomach acid before it even gets into your bloodstream. It's not worth wasting your time or your money on L-glutathione. The form of glutathione that you want to consume is S-acetyl, and I should have put an L there, S-acetyl L-glutathione. There's an acetyl group attached to the glutathione. Think of it as it's protecting it as it goes through the stomach acid, and you can get 90% more of it in your bloodstream. So you can take hundreds of capsules of glutathione and maybe get some benefit and get some in your bloodstream, or take very little S-acetyl L-glutathione, and it'll be more expensive, but that's the best. It's by far the best to use. So I can't endorse glutathione enough. And what we're doing is we're adding more glutathione in when people's glutathione becomes depleted. That's the biggest thing. Cold and flu season, zinc and C and vitamin C are my friends, but I'm going to run to glutathione like there's no tomorrow. And then I'll stay on these things in high doses for at least a week after symptoms are gone, so there's no reoccurring. And glutathione precursors, this is where we get the things that help our body make glutathione. N-acetylcysteine is a big one. It's relatively inexpensive. N-acetylcysteine is N-acetylcysteine. You're not going to see different variations in that, but get it from a reputable source. There's other free educational resources. You can float around the website. I have over 100 videos there right now. Natural Grocers is going to be a foundation, and they're really going a long way in providing information like this. There's YouTube channels, over 130 videos. I also have a podcast, which is really interesting, Brainstorming with the Docs, with a functional neurologist. We're talking about these things and strategies in many different health disorders. So there's a lot of resources. Take advantage of them. They're on the website, drgharrison.com. And, when people get sick and they have immunocompromise and they're dealing with other issues, when people are super healthy, they're not necessarily too worried about strengthening their immune system. When they're dealing with sickness, that's when they get concerned about their immune system. So, we don't have to be concerned if we do things the right way. Correct testing. Know where deficiencies lie, know where disorders lie. look for the underlying causes. Address causes, not symptoms, but recognize symptoms as one of maybe you're the best diagnostic tools. Look at the body as a whole. These are all important strategies. These are the ways to become healthy, and learn. Absolutely learn. Like this video. We have to learn, and we have to become educated to take care of ourselves. And that's a big thing that we do in our clinic. We're teaching people how to take care of themselves so they don't become dependent. We have to learn how to take care of ourselves, and no one is more of an advocate of our health than we are. So education is big. It's really why our clinic doesn't have a revolving door, because people can take care of themselves, something we're very proud of. So to summarize, when it comes to overall health, because when we think of immunity, we have to think of overall health. There's some major pieces, many of which we talked about. Detoxification is necessary. You can't have the toxin load. Emotional health, something we didn't get into. If someone is emotionally compromised, emotionally depressed, has a lot of emotional baggage, that has to be corrected. Emotional disorders cause immunocompromise all by themselves. So take care of that. Find some professional help with that. Physical fitness, you have to move. Everybody moves at a different starting point. We have to do a little bit of movement in our life. It's different for everybody. Nutrition, we talked about that. Hormones, we got into a little bit of that. Hormones they have to be balanced. They have to be tested, really. You have to know where they're at. And the nervous system. The nervous system is an immune trigger. The nervous system determines what's going to happen with the immune system. Is it going to be strong? Is it going to be weak? Is it going to be distracted? So that has to be in check. When you put all of these pieces in place, things start to get better. And if you don't have a system to put these pieces in place, it results in a 94% failure rate. So there has to be some structure. Now, there's many different ways of dealing with this. I know we went through many concepts, and a lot of people might still have questions, or they might, this video might have opened up other doors. What do I do now, Dr. Harrison? You introduce all these concepts. What's next? I do offer a consult for people watching these things, and it's a personal lifestyle program. Everybody is different what that looks like. The initial appointment is it's a consultation evaluation. We lay out a plan of what we're going to do. Sometimes we have to order more lab work. I talked about lab work. Sometimes we have to we're able to jump right into it. But that first appointment is really exploring, looking at all your history. It takes a lot of time on my end, figuring everything out. Then we have an appointment. I allow an hour for it, whether we need it or not. To explore and figure out what our goals are and how we're going to tackle it and correct it. And people watching this, I do create a big discount. The total value, that's $287. I cut it down to $87. Now, $87 does not cover my time or the time with the person or behind the scenes. I spend at least 2 hours on every case before they even walk in the door, but it does get rid of some financial barriers and create some clarity. I've learned over the years, including myself, I was a broke, starving student. And if I didn't have that doctor to help me, I told you my story, I wouldn't be here right now. So people deserve a break. We don't start care this day, but we navigate and lay out a plan. And whether that's lab testing or we lay out what it's going to look like. But it is an offer for anybody interested. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. We probably went over, so my apologies. So I guess that's back to you, Amy.
Thank you. That was amazing. I've learned so much. I love having these things so that I can learn a little bit more every time. And I did have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I am, of course, a natural grocer shopper, and so today when I go and do that, what are like 3 to 5 things that if I want to try and boost my immune and get started, that I know you mentioned a few, but what are a few things that I could go look for, whether it's an organic produce or maybe a supplement or a vitamin that I could just start taking immediately to get a kickstart?
Well, I think the 2 big things would be the vitamin C. Make sure you're getting a decent dose of vitamin C. Zinc is always going to be your friend. If you can find a zinc that has a little bit of copper in it, like you get a blend, that'll be even better.
Okay.
So those from a nutrient standpoint, vitamin A plays a role. You got to be careful with vitamin A. Too high of vitamin A will cause a problem. Vitamin D is it's my second favorite nutrient. Vitamin D Most people can tolerate anywhere from 3 to 5,000 if they're not working with a doctor, international units a day. I'm not necessarily going to advise too much. I don't know anybody's case here, but you'd never really want to go over 5,000 or even 4,000 without a doctor following your numbers. That's going to be big. If you can find one with K2, that's going to be great. In the produce section, I love that question because we don't get that. People all the time want to ask about a supplement. From a detox standpoint, there's probably nothing better you could do for yourself than have, eat broccoli in 2 meals a day. It doesn't take much. Broccoli, the nutrients found in broccoli are where the most advanced nutrient companies are really leaning into. They're using broccoli seed extract because it's so powerful. And it's not only in cleaning the liver, you're actually flushing toxic hormones out of the body. Broccoli is, no one can, you can do it right. You can make broccoli fun. And I'm not a broccoli person, but I'll tell you, I actually made it fun. So now it's actually a thing for me.
Okay.
So
superhero vegetable.
It is. It really is. You can do it right, and you can make it taste good, and you don't have to put a bunch of cheese and poison on it and all that. So I think from a produce piece, that should be a staple. That should be a staple. Yeah. And skin. I can't go into that. This isn't a talk on dermatology, but my goodness, skin, it will transform your skin. Now, it's one of those things you're not going to take today and see tomorrow. It's one of those things you're going to take frequently. You will know changes. So hopefully that helps.
Yes, I will add broccoli ×2 to my shopping list for today.
Yeah. It doesn't take much. Frequency always, and consistency always trumps everything. So small amounts frequently is going to do a lot better than, engorging on broccoli once a week.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Just eating it raw.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I learned so much, like I said, and I hope that everybody else did. Thank you for also, giving us, this is such a crazy time. So the immune system is obviously something we're all worried about. And just also thanks for giving me another excuse to buy a dog. It's going to help my immune system. I'm so happy that I have that argument now.
And they'll force you to go for that 10-minute walk. You'll get that peer pressure that's beyond belief.
Yes, exactly. Get my body moving. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone else for being here. And make sure to subscribe and look out for our next event.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.